Shalom, family. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news updates. Always a pleasure and a privilege for us to get together with you on these broadcasts. And it's our pleasure to join with you. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, we do these weekly. And the reason why is because a lot of people were disconnected completely, which is bad, very bad. Don't want to do that. Complete disconnection from the news makes you easy sort of to manipulate out there. But then there's two connected, if you know what I mean. You're to the point where you can't function because you get too much anxiety and all kinds of things going on. So we had to find a really good sort of, perfect spot to be. And that weekly pace seems to have worked out real well for us. We've been doing that for several years. And we like to think of it as the 10,000-foot view, looking at things through a scriptural lens, if you will. But at the same time, maintaining sort of the standard that, we're above it and we're not to fall under the sway of the atmosphere of the wicked one. And so we like to say we want to be informed without being overwhelmed. And so that is how we do that. And of course, we do have our website at remnantwatch.org. I'm sorry, remnantwatch.com. Sorry, not remnantwatch.org. That's remnantcom.org if you want to. remnanthouse.org if you want to go over there and support the house. But anyway, Russia moves to do some things. We're going to talk about that tonight. But before we do, I just want to make sure you're aware of the download survivable guides, which are really important. We've actually had a few people download those, so that's good. Glad we left them up there. We do have this banner up here. If you're ever missing our latest update, that'll always take you to our latest update. And there is a search bar there, so you can search previous stories. Okay, so just so you know, and it's there for your convenience. And I'm grateful for all of you who share the link. And again, we did this really for our own family, and then just kind of invite you all to join and share. But for those of you that wanted to, again, be informed without being overwhelmed. And on that note, let's get into the news. And tonight's top story, we of course last week we saw that the deadline was given to the Russian Federation, the country of Russia. And of course, that wasn't well received. And so Russia's response was to move their nukes closer to Europe just days after an explosive Trump World War III row. And of course, they're all branding the president a cheater for moving his ball during a round. And of course, you knew they were going to just wait for him to do something like that to just pounce on it. So that's kind of interesting in and of itself. But nevertheless, here we are in the tit for tat stage, if you will. And Europe is teetering on the edge of major conflict. Strategic aircraft are used to bomb Ukraine, and reports suggest they have been loaded with missiles, leading to the high probability of an imminent major attack. It says, of course, Donald Trump is using very strong language, calling it disgusting. And Vladimir Putin, of course, has moved 4 heavy Tu-95MS nuclear bombers closer to Europe. And, of course, strategic aircraft are used to bomb. So if confirmed, then that means we are just that much closer to an actual conflict with Russia, which is something that many of you were hoping we wouldn't go run off and do, right? I mean, I don't know if you, but I certainly would rather we didn't. So this is not pertaining well. It's not a good look at the moment, but nevertheless, we're going to continue to watch these things unfold. And the reaction to the deadlines that the president has been putting out there has not been good. The reactions have been pretty stiff. They're essentially not really reacting the way that he wanted. And of course, he was expecting, remember guys, he was expecting to just walk in and be able to give his buddy Vlad a phone call and everything was going to be good in a day. And he got a bit of a rug pull, didn't he? Because the Russians have no intentions of wrapping up quickly. They intend to eviscerate Ukraine. Bit of a payback. I think that their attempts at individuals' lives and some of the things that we saw has in fact fueled this conflict in a new way. So now we're seeing more of a personal involvement here, and I think it's going to continue to deepen. So this isn't good, not good. We're going to continue to see more and more lives lost if this conflict continues, and it doesn't look like there's anybody listening to that guy. So as much as he talks on the West, they're not listening to him. They don't care. And frankly, I don't think they're as afraid of America as they once were. And that's a bad thing, guys. That's a bad thing because, a lot of things were peace through strength, right? We didn't have to go to war. You could just say, hey, hey, and everybody behaved themselves. Now, that doesn't work. You can wag your finger all you want. And countries are like, yeah, bring it. I mean, you got the Houthis. The Houthis are putting a slap down. The Houthis. Okay, you don't even know who those are. And you're going, Houthis, who are they, right? And they're hurting the U.S. Navy. So, again, as we've talked about over the last several years, really, but even just over this last 6 months, these are little nicks. These are chipping away at the empire, if you will. And so usually empires are death by 1,000 cuts. Just saying. So there's a lot of things pulling apart at the American empire. Moving to the Middle East for a quick update, we do see that the U.S. envoy is telling the Israeli hostage families he is working on a plan to end the Gaza war. So they're still trying desperately to find a way to bring a resolution to this seemingly never-ending conflict. And of course, this is just horrific scenes coming from the Gaza region, which have been just absolutely decimated by conflict with Israel. And of course, Hamas has no demilitarization without Palestinian state. Hamas is releasing videos of basically are starving hostages. And so this is, of course, their retaliation against Israel starving of their population. So this is just more tit for tat. And of course, the Middle East envoy told families of hostages being held by Palestinian militant groups, Hamas, on Saturday that he was working with the Israeli government on a plan that would effectively end the war in Gaza. And Trump has made ending the conflict a major priority of his administration. And though negotiations have faltered, I do believe they are working hard at that. So continue to pray for peace to prevail, folks. Peace should prevail. And let the criminals who have done criminal things face criminal charges. But let not whole entire groups of people who are innocent of any of it have to bear the brunt of the behavior of despots, dictators, and tyrants. I do believe we have come to a point of mental evolution, spiritual evolution, if you want to call it that, where we can say, we've had about enough of this. So that prophecy in Isaiah of beating our swords into plowshares, it's all that much closer than it has ever been. So let us pray that we continue to see more and more people sort of disgusted with the concept of this perpetual state of conflict that nothing short of warmongers is the only way you can describe it, folks. That's what the Bible calls it. The Bible calls them warmongers, people who like conflict, people who benefit from it. And remember that there is, of course, the root of all evil, the love of mammon. And so how are they benefiting? Well, they benefit from not only the selling of the weapons that destroy things, but the rebuilding of buildings and so forth. And almost should be a rule that if you're involved in the destruction, you can't be involved in the reconstruction. Maybe we should de-incentivize such things. One thing that I do want to say that I think is a far better way to maybe have your conflict, well, have it economically. At least that isn't bullets flying. It's still going to affect people and certainly going to cause damage. But I feel a little bit better anyway, that if you got a conflict, at least just don't do business together for a minute. Maybe figure that out. Trump planning shock and awe Russia sanctions, which is certainly better than shock and awe nuclear weapons. So I'll take it. Donald Trump, the U.S. president, is preparing shock and awe sanctions on Russian exports, a senior Republican has said. Senator Jim Risch, the chairman of the powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee, said Trump would make good on his pledge to impose crippling economic penalties on Moscow's trading partners. So it's not going to be Moscow directly. It's going to be those who trade with Moscow. So this is a bit of extortion. that is being done to try to bring other nations, mostly, of course, BRIC nations and BRICS nations, and bring them out of that alliance and bring them more into a Western leaning favor. That day has left. The confidence level in the West is precipitously lower than it has ever been. And there is no end in diminishing that in sight. Oh my, how the mighty have fallen. And so I do expect that if you're wise, you're going to be preparing for that. You're going to see ahead. And you're going to say, wait a minute, let's not be naive here. There are forces at work that are decimating the Western financial oligarchy, if you want to call it that. And a new paradigm is coming in. Whether you like it or not is not relevant. You might not have liked a lot of things that came in, but you had to deal with them. I bet many of you didn't like the internet era when it came in. It disturbed everything analog. But here we are. So there are some things that you just can't fight. You're going to have to deal with. They're going to run you over. And so we're in those moments right now where there's some things coming in that'll run you over, and you've got to get in front of it. And that's one of the reasons why we do these broadcasts, is so that you're not overwhelmed. And why would you be overwhelmed? You wait too long. Okay. You wait too long to respond to some of these things. They'll come and get you. I don't know if you were aware of this, but you're looking at a government that is in constant state of cover-up. And I was looking at this report. I don't know how long it'll stay on my screen, so I'm going to pop it up there. And the song that came to my head was, "Meet the new boss. Same's the old boss." Remember that song? I don't really know how to sing it, but the old boss is no different than the new boss. And so here we go, folks. And this could have been, some other names could have been there. So-and-so's name in Jeffrey Epstein report files redacted by FBI. Could have been anybody. Could have been anybody. Okay? Say, what? My name's not no FBI report for that thing. Your name's not in there, so you're not redacted. Why has he got to be redacted, right? And so we've definitely, the bloom's off the rose. We're all realizing that the rug pull is in full effect. The scam is in full effect. The thanks for getting me elected suckers is in full effect. I don't know how else you see this. I don't know how else anybody is not going, wow. Okay, so even the diehard MAGA people are going, oh boy, what did we do, right? Meet the new boss. Same's the old boss. It ain't no different. We walked right in from the frying pan to the fire, and we're going to see some of these ridiculous things. And the reason why is because, again, it's that too big to fail mentality. It's the, we don't want to talk about this because, what will we do if that breaks down? Some things need to fail. Some things need to collapse. Some things ought not be. And so when they artificially protect and preserve that which ought not be, then their destruction is sudden. And I'll explain why. Because when something is artificially being propped up, artificially being made to exist, the artificialness of its support can go in a minute. And that means the ripple effect will be instantaneous as well. I'll give you a case in point. The government was funding public news, the public broadcasting, whatever, right? Soon as they cut the funding, literally they announced, hey, we're shutting down. We're shutting down. Wow, look at that. That was quick. Boom, boom. Why? Because it was being artificially propped up. And when something is artificially propped up, as soon as the artificial goes away, falls like that. And so anything artificially being propped up out there right now has the peril of being instantly removed. And there's a lot of it. And so this is why you got to kind of be wise about, we're talking about this today here, folks, and how some of our brethren, because they didn't have any choice, they went to Egypt to get a job, just kind of like going down to Egypt to get grain. Well, you can end up a slave down there. You can spend too much time. And a lot of folks ended up down in Egypt, got a job. Next thing you know, they don't want to leave because they're getting paid well. Remember, that's still Egypt. You're still building pyramids. You're still working for your enemy. Okay, so don't lower your guard. You went to Babylon to get victuals. right? Be aware of where you are. Be aware of what you're doing. Be aware of the circumstances that you are in. Okay. And speaking of being aware, we were just talking about the Middle East situation, and it's starting to get interesting over there because there is a push going on, guys. And I've been so busy lately, and I mean it when I say I do not watch news in between these broadcasts. I do not. This has been, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've really enjoyed not being filled with all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't tracking this event, but when I saw that the UK is now planning to recognize Palestine as a state in September. This is right now. It's like next month, not less than a month from now, right? And Israel has rejected the prime minister's announcement, accused him of pandering to his own MPs and the French, but it doesn't matter. The British government has said it would officially recognize Palestine as a state in September. It doesn't matter who they're pandering to. It doesn't matter anything. Remember, this is the same group. By the way, in Britain is where they filed the state of Israel. Yeah, the state of Israel, like the corporation, where'd they file it? Well, they had to file it somewhere. They filed it in England. So this is interesting that it's the British government that said it will officially recognize Palestine as a state in September. So here we go, folks. Fall FISA looking like they are stacking up. Kind of told you, kind of felt like this particular fall FISA was going to be interesting. And here we go. Following an emergency cabinet meeting in Gaza, Sir Starmer made the announcement on Tuesday after meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump the previous day. So what are we going to see here in September? I don't know. But I do feel like we're moving toward more confrontation. So this could be bad for the sort of geopolitical situation. I think there's competing prophecies. People are believing prophetic things. One of the dangers of eschatology governing too much of your thinking. So one of the dangers of your prophetic belief systems being overly active in some of your decision making, and that's exactly what you're seeing. You've got groups that believe certain prophecies, and they're trying to make those come to pass. You got other groups believing other prophecies, and they're trying to make those come to pass. You got other groups, involved in, and all this is a soup that we're all dealing with. So just be aware of that. Be aware that this is where we are in this moment, and it's going to probably get worse for a minute before it gets better. And so, of course, in retaliation to this, in retaliation to those that are sort of pushing this anti-Israel, and this is, again, not anti-Semitic, it seems to me more anti-state of Israel, but some people might parse words there. So we have to be careful with that. I definitely think we have to be very careful with when we throw entire people groups of any group under a bus. There's criminals, and then there's the rest. Not everybody's a criminal just because they happen to be this particular people group. So I think we got to be smarter than that, be able to discern that they're bad guys hiding among normal people, right? So remove the bad guys, not all the people. And so these blanket moves, like this one's another blanket response. Here we go. States that are boycotting Israeli companies will lose disaster relief funds. What does disaster relief funds have to do with whether or not you support or don't support a state? And so, again, more manhandling, more heavy-handedness. That does not make sense. But this is the time we're in, folks. So just be aware of it. Just understand, I'm not going to go past the paywall, but just so you know, the Trump administration said that states and cities that boycott Israeli companies would be ineligible for disaster relief. So this is not only affecting states here in the United States, but also affecting international relations, because that pretty much shoots a shot across the bow. So if you're going to campaign against Israel, we're not going to do business with you. So that's a strong statement, right? So that's basically prejudging a matter, making sure that, no matter what, they get off. That can be very dangerous. So I think it's very a scary moment. Again, a lot of religious elements in these decisions. And so not all of them are logical. Some of them are more emotional based on, and some people's religious fervors and what they believe is coming up, what they believe the scriptures foretelling, what have you, not knowing history, not knowing what's already been fulfilled versus things that are yet to come. And so because of that, there's a lot of machinations that have a lot of that as their fuel or their motivation. You look at the Muslim community, they have motivations as well. the Masons and their beliefs, they have motivations. Then you got the Catholics, which is a huge group, and they've got their prophecies, if you will, that don't necessarily align at all with the scripture, but they've got their prophecies. And so all these different groups have ideas of the way the world should go, and they are competing for final stage in their mind, the way that they see it. They're competing for that last opportunity to run things. So it's Pinky in the Brain all over again. And some things that are very interesting is coming out right now. And this is something we knew about since the 1990s. I personally am a Ron Wyatt fan. I went to, in 1999, I went to confirm Sodom and Gomorrah. So I went to the location and did come back to the United States with a jar of brimstone. Many of you know that. I went to 40 cities with that, with a prophetic word. This particular field of study and endeavors of great interest to this house. And so I was not surprised when I saw this headline, because actually we've known about this for some time. But this is continuing now to get more and more press. So whenever something gets a lot of press, we notice it not because we necessarily believe it's true or not true or what. It's just the press value that we're noticing. And this is getting more and more attention, folks. So there's a reason for that. The Ark of the Covenant mystery blown wide open as biblical relic is discovered. And of course, again, this is 25 years ago where Ron discussed where he believes and took a blood sample and everything else from the Ark of the Covenant. Archaeologists have uncovered ruins in Israel. They believe once housed the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred gold-covered chest described in the Bible. According to the scripture, Moses placed the Ten Commandments inside the ark, which was kept in the tabernacle, a sanctuary built shortly after the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, and traditionally dated by some scholars around 1445 BC. And while the fate of the ark remains a mystery, it vanished from biblical record before the Babylonian sack of Jerusalem in 586 BC. So now a team working at the ancient site of Shiloh has unearthed a stone structure that appears to match the dimensions and orientation of the tabernacle described in the Bible. And this is Dr. Scott Stripling, a director of the Tel Shiloh Dig, said we've uncovered a monumental building from the Iron First period that matches the biblical dimensions of the tabernacle. The structure is oriented east and west and divided in a 2-to-1 ratio, just as described in the scripture. So for those that thought it was a circle, there's that. So moving on, although I did find that interesting. I have to say, fascinating stuff. And so here we are. We're seeing more and more things that are coming to light. And I happen to know that there's great effort to preserve the botanicals of Israel. And there are efforts to preserve many things that pertain to the history of Israel and so forth. For those of you that are history buffs, that's a great thing. So you're seeing the light shine. And you may say, well, Peter, some of it they're getting wrong and they're not. That's okay. The fact that they're asking these questions, the fact that they're digging, the fact that these things are coming up is a good thing. It changes the conversation, and perhaps we can put the guns down and just talk about the way things were, about what has already occurred, about why some of these things that you're finding are under 30 feet of mud. Where'd the mud come from? If that statue was standing on the level ground, how did 30 feet of mud get above it? That's a great question. We should maybe ask those questions. Right? There's a whole lot of other questions we should ask, if you will. Switching gears just a little bit, one of the things that we're noticing here, and again, this pertains to the biblical reports that we see in the scripture. And again, depending upon your beliefs and what have you, you may not see these things as relevant, but I do. In Matthew, we're told about earthquakes and various things that are happening in the earth. Well, I believe the earth is kind of like a gauge. And it starts to react when things are about to major happen. And so I believe the earth is doing that right now. In fact, we're seeing massive levels of volcanic activity. We just saw this occur. Indonesia's most active volcanoes are erupting. And, you guys can go look at that. I don't need to give you, footage of volcanoes. You know what they are. The point is that there are certain things really, really happening in succession. Well, for example, everybody is aware of this now, so this is not cutting edge news. This happened in the last week. But if you were under a rock, well, then there was a giant earthquake. I think it was an 8.8, more likely a 7.8, but nevertheless. And the volcano starts erupting right after the earthquake. So this tells us that we've got some things going on under the ground. And here we see they are calling it still an 8.8. I did see it downgraded by Dutch Sense, which I believe him better than I believe these guys. I just got to say, Dutch is more credible. But anyhow, basically, right after this, they started to see, of course, the volcanic eruptions. And so here you're seeing a little bit of a graphic that helps you see the activity level that began to erupt right here in this part of the world. Again, folks, there is something very serious going on with the Ring of Fire. Indonesia's on that same line. Of course, the Japan is just on that same line and so forth. And so now we come over here and we saw that there's some effect going on in Alaska and down on this part of the world. And so this whole Western Pacific plate appears to be moving. Something is happening in the Pacific. I mean, I don't think you can deny that. I think you got to kind of stop and go, okay, I don't know what it is. All right, we'll give you that. But something is happening. Okay? Something is happening. And then whenever we see this, by the way, and guys, they did this last year to us. Remember that? Remember last year when they started saying, prepare for hurricane season. We're going to see, unusual hurricane season. And sure enough, we did. So you can speculate as to why. Who cares? Bottom line is, start seeing these things, get prepared. Hurricane season, warning signs pile up. Brace for a dangerous August. So far, unremarkable. Atlanta hurricane season is headed for a pivot point, forecasters warn, and here's what to expect. So now they're suddenly talking about storms coming in on the East Coast, so that's a new thing. Yes, and some people are expecting beachfront property in Arizona. I don't know. I think the Navy maps might. Who knows what is going to happen there? But I can tell you this. The earth is responding. The scripture says creation groans for the manifestation of the sons of Elohim. So are we seeing that? Are we seeing earth groaning for the day to throw off all of this other activity that is destroying the earth, that is not conducive to the life that we were intended to live? A life of faith, by the way. And I want to tell you one of the things that I think the earth is reacting to is lies. Earth was made by truth. Everything on earth was constructed and created with truth. And we are in a world filled with lies. Okay? And lies are mental disease, basically. They are prepackaged mental disease. Did you know that you are antiviral? Yes. You who walk in the truth, you who bring reconciliation, you who clean up things, that are messes in people's heads, you're antiviral. Lies are a virus, guys. They are. They are the original virus. Yeah. As soon as you think about it, you go, oh, that's good. Oh, that's deep. Yes, that's why he says all liars go into the lake of fire. All right. So just be aware of that. We are seeing earth changes and we're seeing things react. So all of a sudden we're seeing, so we not only saw flash floods on the East Coast. So for those of you that are on the East Coast, hang on to your hats. You got storms drenching millions from DC to New York. Also getting plenty of water. Look at this. My goodness. Okay. Things are looking rough. You know what I mean? That's a wee bit of water there. So the East Coast got pummeled. I mean, this looks like it hit while they're driving, right? So that tells you everything. It's a serious moment in time, folks. And we're continuing to see more earth effects. Torrential rainfall and flash flooding slammed the mid-Atlantic northeast Thursday, wreaking havoc along the I-95 corridor, leaving a young boy in Maryland dead, by the way. So people are being affected, major affected by these things, guys. And it's all changes to the weather. things that are happening in our world. And I do believe that the earth reacts and responds. Some people, you might disagree. I don't know. Give me your thoughts. I love your thoughts. I would love your thoughts because you are brilliant people. And you might disagree with me and I might learn something. So please tell me what you're thinking. I've learned so much from all of you. I would never want to prohibit you from sharing your brilliance. Share your light. Shine your light, my friends. Okay. And there's other, somebody, you guys are sharp. You're picking it up. There's things ramping up. It's ramping up. Look at this thing. This is the, I remember El Nino, right? You guys remember that? El Nino. I remember talking about that. I mean, I was down with El Nino, okay, and La Nina. Remember that? Well, now we got all kinds of other things that they come out. And why do they always make them Hispanic? What's with the Latin? Why you always got to blame the Latins for the wind and the rain? What's up with that? La Nina, El Nino, right? Derechos. What's up with that? The derechos amid threat on Saturday, South Dakota and Minnesota on Monday. Dangerous derecho. I never heard. I used to live in Minnesota. I never heard of a derecho. I mean, I know what derecho is, but that's kind of interesting. So, derecho is expected to form in the parts of the northern plains, upper Midwest on Monday, with wind gusts over 75 miles per hour likely. That's some serious wind. I can tell you right now, we get some serious wind out here. We know what serious wind. We know serious wind. And that, my friends, is serious wind. Okay? Moderate threat for severe storms in place for the parts of South Dakota, Minnesota on Monday afternoon, in the evening, into the evening, due to the threat of the derecho, a windstorm that can cause significant damage. And again, like I said, I remember, you guys remember, El Nino is wrestling match man this week. Yeah, like I remember El Nino, La Nina, but all of a sudden we got El Derecho, we got all kinds of stuff, right? So I think they're coming up with new things because the weather is doing things they don't know how to explain. So there's that. One thing that is changing the weather and I think changing the atmosphere is this increasing potential conflict with Russia. So just quickly pointing out that this news headline did come through that 2 nuclear subs were being moved closer to Russia. Don't want to alarm anybody, but this is something that does not bode well. So this is coming as a result of conversations and things that Dmitry Medvedev, who is now deputy chair of Russia's Security Council, told the U.S. president, remember Moscow had Soviet-era nuclear strike capability as of last report. So in other words, don't be thinking you're the only ones with power and ability to do harm. Now, can I just say this really quickly because we can keep going down these little rabbit trails about the Russia-American conflicts or whatever. It's all staged. If you guys remember back in 2017, 18, there was the QAnon big phenomenon. And one of the things they pushed real hard was where we go one, we go all, which came from the movie White Squall, which basically was unite at the edge of disaster kind of movie. In other words, you got to wait until you get to the edge of disaster because that's when people find the resolve to change. There, at the edge of the abyss, at the edge of destruction, only there. And so these people believe this. They believe this. They've been preaching it. They've been talking about it in various innuendic ways. And I believe Trump and Putin are in on that in many ways. And so this looks to me like a big form of manipulation to get the people where they want them. And so I don't think everyone has figured it out. They love using dichotomy. Dichotomy is when they have, or false dichotomy, but they definitely love dichotomy. So the green-red team thing, they love putting you in either red or blue team, anything that just gets you pitted against another group. Now they can sit up and manipulate both. So again, this is a time period that we need to be awake, but definitely not easily pushed into radical reactions to things. You guys should be much more calm as you walk through the challenges that you're seeing. One of the big changes that we're seeing is in the digital and the electronic and that whole space. And again, folks, there's nothing new under the sun. So you're watching a replay of a previous era. Some of the tech has been remanufactured and repackaged in plastic, so it's lighter weight. It's the same tech. It's the same stuff. So just understand that when you're seeing some of these things, it's nothing new, and in fact was destroyed before. So don't go getting yourselves all on a clump about it. Just pray, because Yahuwah, the same Yahuwah that destroyed them the last time, will come destroy them again. Police are using nationwide, they're embracing a new way to deal with first response with a drone. Talk about getting you used to the tech in between. So essentially the tech can take your rights and respond. They're going to first do it with good responses, positive things. It will flip. Watch this. In dozens of U.S. cities, the next time you call 911, so see what they did there? See how clever that was? Tie it to 911. A drone might show up before an officer does. The technology behind that drone as a first responder has skyrocketed in popularity among police departments. Of course, they can finish their donut. I love you guys, but come on, man, right? Nationwide, since the Federal Aviation Administration streamlined the process for agencies to adopt the program this spring. While it could previously take up to a year to get approval, it now often just takes days. And so law enforcement and drone industry leaders are praising this technology as life-saving. Of course they would. And with the potential to help authorities in situations ranging from missing persons, which is a great idea, right, to active shooters. It's definitely a great idea. Certainly got that. But critics worry the programs encourage mass surveillance, okay, and violate the public's privacy. You could do a lot of things to prevent crime if you don't care about privacy. I mean, why not just, you get where I'm going? Like, you could go way down that road, and yeah, you'll definitely get crime prevention. You also get life prevention. You also get freedom prevention. So be careful of the things you're trading off to get a benefit. Now, one of the things that I see here, just to give you my thoughts, guys, so, have a donut, have a share. Hand me a donut. I want a donut. Okay. Anyway, who mentioned donuts? Anyhow, David, put the donuts down. So one of the things I have a problem with this whole concept, I remember seeing a video not too long ago, probably about a year or two ago, and it was really kind of a jokey video. It was meant to be sort of like a fun parody of the future or something. But this drone showed up and announced to this guy, "Are you so-and-so?" And he says, "Who?" And he's like, "You need to put on these handcuffs." The drone handed him handcuffs. Some of you saw this thing. And he went through this entire experience, never even interacting with a human being. Had to go to prison. The whole time talking to like an AI robot or what have you, the entire process. Okay. And this machine threatened him, like, if you don't put these handcuffs on, I'm going to use lethal force and all this, right? Well, somebody had to authorize that. And I believe that little video, those kinds of things are sent out to normalize behavior that is absolutely atrocious. Okay? Can you imagine you and me standing on the edge of Mar-a-Lago or some other wealthy person's property, sending over a drone with voice and saying, "You all have to do whatever we say"? How fast would they shoot down that drone? How fast would they remove that thing? And then when you see that reaction, you're seeing the reaction of authentic sovereigns who won't let you do such stupid things. Okay, regardless of what benefits you say you're going to gain. And you could say, "Well, we were just making sure that everybody at Mar-a-Lago was safe, so we decided to fly drones." What would be the immediate reaction you would get? Man, those drones would be shot down, right? Or any other wealthy person or any other well-to-do, company or what have you, they would immediately react to that. Okay? The fact that the public does not react, well, that just tells them their anesthesia is working. It's just like going to the dentist. Is it numb yet? Are you numb yet, honey? Oh, no? Oh, we'll give you 5 more minutes. Put a little more Novocaine in there, right? They're numbing you down so that you don't see that they just put technology in as a police officer. Since when is a piece of technology have jurisdictional authority over you, a sovereign made in the image of the Most High? It doesn't. And did you give that authority? No, you didn't. But you're doing it by acquiescence if you don't react. So this is going to get dicey if there isn't a change in the very near term, because it's too convenient. It's too easy to say, "Oh, we just low IQ people will gladly jump on this stuff." They don't even know what they're doing. And so folks, understand that we are moving into some very, very dangerous times. As a matter of fact, experts are predicting that AI is going to lead to the extinction of humanity. You believe that? Well, I don't, because I think that's a braggadocious, stupid thing to say, but it's in the news, and that's why we're covering it, because they're talking about it. Truly super intelligent bots could wipe us off the face of the earth. That is so full of baloney. I can't even begin to tell you how stupid this is. Let me tell you something. AI could decide to wipe you all out, and then it times out, and then it'll come back in half an hour, and everybody that was telling it to destroy the world, it'll be going, oh, I don't remember what you were talking about. What? You know, we're going to be the biggest victims of AI. The idiots are putting their trust in AI to bring their kingdoms in. Those are the ones that are going to suffer the most, because they actually believed the lies that the AI was telling them. You think the AI only hustles us? You think we're the only ones getting scammed and gaslit by the AI? Oh no, hon. They're gaslighting left and right. They've built this empire on sand, and it doesn't even work. And I'm telling you, 30 years of development. I know what I'm talking about. Any developer out there will say, yup, this thing's got major issues. Okay, doesn't mean it's not taking jobs, though, but not for the reasons that I think a lot of people think. And I think a lot of jobs were actually fluffery. So, you know, a lot, especially in the tech sector, there were a lot of jobs that were nonsense, and people were just getting paid for nonsense. So I think, what was it? Elon Musk dropped like 80% of his workforce to run X and has gone on no problem. That tells you there was a lot of people on that payroll that didn't need to be there. Whoo, right? Okay, because somebody's in charge, they got a budget, and I got this much money to spend, so they're hiring people, regardless of whether or not they actually need them. Okay, that's the way our world has changed. And now they're talking about this, right? So they're saying, experts are coming out and saying AI will lead to the extinction of humanity. Well, that's a boast. We'll see. I'd love to see you pull that off. Okay, I don't think you're going to get even close, but I think it's an interesting threat. And now you're also seeing dovetailing again, right on cue. So how many know that they coordinate stories? You do know that, right? You guys know that stories are coordinated. So it's not like it's random that a certain theme comes out all week. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Zuckerberg says AI superintelligence is, quote, insight. Well, what do you know? What a shock that he would come out, just happen to say that right now, and tell it's a new era of personal empowerment. Zuckerberg last month announced the creation of Meta Superintelligence Labs, a unit of the company that will work to develop new technology capabilities. And so they're taking this. This is an AI-generated video of Obama being arrested, and so that was part of the fun they were having with that, right? And so Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said Wednesday that the creation of superintelligent artificial intelligence is now in sight. I do believe he's right. Unfortunately, they will not be the ones in lead of such things. Zuckerberg said that Meta's approach will be different from others in the industry because it will focus on developing AI superintelligence to benefit people's personal life rather than directing AI to automate work, and raising concern as more and more companies move to replace entry-level roles with artificial intelligence. So if I were, a young person out there, you know what I would get into? Managing AI systems, because they're idiots and they need somebody to tell them what to do. So they act like they're smart. They're stupid as a box of rocks, and you've got to tell them what to do. Literally got to tell them everything. So everything that they're telling you, somebody had to tell them before they told you. Just saying. Not as impressive now, is it? Right? Now you're like, oh, that's what that means? Large language model? Yeah, it means a lot of conversations shoved in there, pre-done. It's basically what it does. I'm simplifying, but I'm pretty close. I make them so I know a little bit about them, and they're not as impressive as you think. And so now, but what they keep doing, and I keep noticing this, they keep pushing this sort of like a narrative. They want you to believe in the AI, like, oh, it's so smart. My goodness, it's stupid. I just can't even begin to tell you how dumb it is. ChatGPT passes the I'm not a robot test, a terrifying step toward AI development of mind of its own. And so they call this the Turing test. Artificial intelligence becomes so sophisticated it's apparently no longer distinguishable from human counterparts. The newest generation of ChatGPT has ironically devised a way to pass the online verification test designed to stop bots from accessing the system. The assistant, dubbed ChatGPT agent, was designed to navigate the internet on the user's behalf, handling complex tasks from online shopping to scheduling appointments. So it's figured out, some of these bot things. And what were those for? I'll tell you right now, guys, one of the reasons why companies were putting those things up was not just so that the bots couldn't get in, but also so that what traffic numbers they would be reporting would be accurate. So if the bots can now get past these barriers, then now you're going to end up with fake bot numbers again. So that's bad news. When we had those barriers and only people could get through, then you actually had a human count, right? So you could see how many actual people. So the fact that they can get through this now is bad because it's again meaning we're gonna have some bad data and some faulty data, which they'll use to manipulate. So it's not a good thing. It's the reason why they came up with it. Here we go again. Excuse me. And now big tech is reacting, and I think this is going to continue following down the line. And they've cut 100,000 jobs since last year. The AI revolution is just getting started, and it's costing people's jobs. And I think the reason why is a little bit of overhype. And a lot of these jobs will come back, but come back in different forms. So they may have gone a little too far, some of these companies. Nevertheless, since the last year, big tech has started a shed over 100,000 jobs. Sure, some of these were layoffs or just, again, standard corporate belt tightening, but it's now clear that AI is impacting the job market. There's no question about that. And why? Because it does basic tasks. It does reports and things like that. It does stuff that's fairly easy that a lot of times you may be given to people as busy work. And now that you got that, well, you don't really need the busy work employees. Not good for busy work employees. The displacement of workers through automation is nothing new. Emerging technologies upend legacy companies and industries and usher in new organizations with better jobs and higher pay. It's a cycle that's been dubbed creative destruction by economist Joseph Schumpeter. Throughout history, this has meant short-term pain for long-term gain, at least for some. And I'll give you good examples of that. I mean, we used to have gas stations that we all got gas pumped for us and what have you. And I think that was a great thing. But then they went to self-serve. And when they went to self-serve, they destroyed the service station business. We stopped seeing them being built. We didn't have them anymore. Now all the service stations you got out there are old, 70s, old stations, right? Why is that? Because service stations got pushed out by the new model that came in. And so the same is true with banking, for example. It used to be banking was huge and everybody had big banks and big Marvel buildings. And then little by little, they went down to those smaller, lesser employees until now they're pretty much as a kiosk, right? So technology has had its impact in various sectors. And I believe one of the areas that's going to have a major impact is food. Yeah, so those that are in the food business, you're going to find tech is going to invade there as well. So pay attention to that. But the AI revolution is getting a little bit wild. It's getting crazy. And I think one of the things that is probably one of the most, I think, scary things is this kind of notion that there's the transhumanism. And there's people that feed this because they don't have shalom in their own heart. They're looking for answers, and they're hoping maybe AI will be their answer. Oh, my goodness, how pathetic you are if you think AI is going to be your Aloha Hayam. The race to merge man with machine is no longer confined to the pages of science fiction. It's unfolding right now in biotech labs, boardrooms, and elite tech circles with a conviction that borders on religious zeal. What did I tell you? I did not write that. Okay, but there it is right in front of you guys on religious zeal. And the new gospel is clear. Humanity is broken. Death is the enemy. Salvation will come through silicon, not scripture. Yes, you read that right. That's a declaration of war. It's a declaration of war, folks. So again, that's why I think you're seeing things like this. I think the earth is reacting, not to Stephen Colbert. We don't care about him, but the earthquakes. Look where this happened, New York and New Jersey. Didn't we just talk about flooding over there? Man, someone trying to get the East Coast's attention. Are you on the East Coast? Is he trying to get your attention? Write to me if you feel that. If you're getting words, if you're getting dreams, visions, anything on the East Coast. It continues to look like it's going to be a rough deal. Okay. And we are, again, continuing to watch. I've got extra stories here on the Russian explosion or the tsunami and what have you. There's a lot of stories that came out on that. We're also watching alarming, guys. I don't know if did you guys see this? Alarming seismic instability along the East Coast, the New Madrid Fault, and the West Coast. So we're talking right, middle, and left, basically. At the East Coast, of course, is the East Coast. The New Madrid Fault goes down sort of the center of the country, a little bit to the east, but still center of the country a bit. And then you have the West Coast. So the whole entire North American continent is coming under judgment. Wow. Imagine that. I mean, you would think somebody maybe went around with a jar of brimstone and let them know, maybe 20 years beforehand, that they needed to repent. And they didn't listen. No, this would be what would happen, right? You would see this sort of reaction that starts to occur to let the inhabitants of that place know your time is almost up. Some people are waiting for a rapture. They're going to get ruptured. Okay, I'm not kidding. This is a very serious time. That's why we need to be praying, asking where we belong. It's not about your eschatology. It's about your familyology. I said it's not about your eschatology. It's your familyology. Okay, it's not your eschatology that's goofy. We don't even care about that. It's your familyology that we need to take a look at. Amen. Because regardless of your eschatology, some familyology looks really squirrely. It looks a little Egyptian. Just saying. Just saying. Hey, by the way, did anybody find this interesting that the Grand Canyon's fire was the Dragon Bravo fire? Just wondering if anybody else found that to be. Did anybody else, kind of hit on that a little bit? I did. Right, so it reaches a mega fire status, surpassing 100,000 acres. This is going on without really a whole lot of notice, by the way, guys. And it's literally creating its own weather systems. It's so huge. You're not even hearing about this. This is barely being discussed. Okay? But this fire is literally covering the entire Grand Canyon. It's being filled with all the smoke. It is a serious, serious fire. The fire has closed the Grand Canyon's north rim for the remainder of the 2025 season. And it's causing significant damage, including the burning of the historic Grand Lodge and the Grand Canyon Visitor Center. In total, 70 structures have been lost, according to the National Park Service. They'll get to rebuild those, so there's that. But nevertheless, they're destroyed. And so what are we seeing here, folks? We're seeing the Earth again reacting. And when the Earth starts to react, you have to ask new questions like, what is it reacting to? Why is it reacting? And here's one. How come the Earth knows enough to react and we don't? Man, that's a question, right? That's like asking if the beavers can keep the Sabbath. Why can't you? Wow. I mean, beavers keep the Sabbath. Did you know that? Yeah. Look it up. It's really interesting. And so this whole AI thing is just continuing to get creepier and creepier. How many are really, really starting to understand the surveillance thing has gone way too far? We're creating an AI that can surveil the U.S. citizen. Who gave you authority to do that? I want to ask this simple question. Who gave you authority to do that? I bet you that if you said we're gonna surveil all the Sudanese would say, "Who the heck do you think you are?" Or South Africans, they would say, "Who the heck do you think you are?" But when they say Americans are just like it's like the bread they eat or everything else. They just go, "Okay." I'm really shocked at the land of the free and the home of the brave has become the land of the child, the immature, and the home of the slave. President Donald Trump recently gathered CEOs for a summit to renewing the United States spiritually and financially. Oh, boy, Donald Trump's going to lead the way. At the top of the agenda was a closer look at American values, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. Whew, okay, I'm going to keep it together. This is just faith and freedom. And there's a cause for alarm. However, centuries after Americans declared independence from the British monarchy, our freedoms and liberty are under threat. Okay, I'm going to take a moment here because, I just need to do this. When they came over here in the 1600s, the scripture was immediately in the early 1600s, they came up with the King James Bible. They replaced the name of Yahuwah 6,823 times. The reason why they did this is because the Hebrew language was literally paralleling and competing with English as the primary language. As a matter of fact, did you know that Hebrew was almost chosen as the official language of the United States? The reason why is because most of the people who were studying the scripture didn't trust the translators. Selah. Okay. Now, what happened at that time period? We had one denomination that came over there on a boat. One, folks. One. Okay. But one of the things that these guys fell for was a scam by the synagogue of our enemies. And what they didn't realize is that they were putting something inside of buildings that would actually produce curses. You see, you can't bring altars inside of buildings, but that's exactly what they did for this. Okay, it's a lot easier in northern climates to have people on the inside instead of outside, especially when really what you want is that. And so, of course, they talked them into this stone altars inside of Catholic cathedrals and everything else, not realizing that the minute they did, they were violating Exodus 20. And as a matter of fact, they were essentially bringing in a multi-generational curse that would prevent reconciliation. Now, take a look at this. 1600s, 400 years later, you have 45,000 denominations and growing. Okay, and growing. You have division everywhere. You have divorce is normal. You have irreconcilable differences everywhere. Why? Because of the stones of fire. You see, in Matthew chapter 5, he tells us exactly the kind of altar, or he tells us we're supposed to bring our gift to the altar and reconcile with our brother. That altar is what is restored by Eliyahu. Okay, the altar that was digged down is the one restored. This is what Lucifer was destroyed from among. He was a cherub that covered. Where would he be sitting? At the place of worship. Where? Among the stones of fire. What would be the stones of fire? Go ask Eliyahu. He brought the fire down right upon them. So understand that this has always been a battle of altars. This is a battle of where you're going to communicate and with whom. If you're communicating at the altar of AI and you're playing with a Ouija board trying to talk to the devil, you are going to come under their control. And can I tell you something else? You know those demons that these folks are talking to? Those demons live in their house, not on the other end of some internet. Yeah. Salah. So when you see somebody doing a video and some demon is responding, he lives there. Just saying. And there's lots of apps out there that you need to be careful about. And so this is going to continue to be a thief. Remember what we were warned not to put our trust in, because thieves break through and steal. And that's exactly what's happening, especially with apps. Phones are very, very dangerous, guys. Be really careful what you put on a phone. Frankly, it should not be used for any financial purpose. I mean, that's my advice. Don't use it for any financial purpose. The end. At best, it's a communication device, and even that's spotty. But when you started to integrate financial things, that was a sucker's trap. Always was, always will be. And so now you're going to see more high tech coming into the area of your health, again, invading more and more of your privacy, as if we need big tech's help in our health management. But yes, they're bringing it in. And these systems do not ask permission. They'd rather ask forgiveness than permission. So they will know your secrets before, and then they will say, oops, we're sorry, we read your file, but it will be too late. They will have already read it. So there's no respect for the privacy, sovereignty of people. This is something that will not last, but it nevertheless is still coming around for a final run. And scientists are warning that we're going to see an unleash of even more earthquakes. So you're continuing to see more sort of information out there that's indicating, I think that's true, because those that are involved in some of these activities know full well what they're bringing. They're bringing judgment. Okay. By the way, real quick, this technology is extremely dangerous, parents. So something that Mindy and I were very smart about. We did not let Josiah have this, and boy, are we ever glad. Look at this. Kids who get smartphones before 13 face skyrocketing suicide risk. Study warns. So pull those tech things out of the kids' hands. Let them go outside and play. Tell them to come back when the street lights come back on. You heard me. Tell them not to come back till the street lights come on. No, don't do that. We don't live in that world anymore. If you did that, I don't know what would happen to them. They may not come back in this crazy world, but back when we were kids, that's the way it was, folks. We didn't come back till the street lights came on. That was very common, very normal. By the way, did you guys hear about Tampa? Yeah, Tampa hit over 100 degrees for the first time ever in history. Ever. Yeah, ever. As in ever. First time in recorded weather history ever. So, again, Earth reacting, things changing, things that man can't control. We saw how many once in 1,000-year floods just over the last week, or last couple of weeks rather. So, we're seeing more and more evidence that the earth itself is reacting to things. I'm not going to be able to go over. We had more stories than I have time to cover today. Sorry, guys, running out of time. So you definitely want to get on over to remnantwatch.com, as we had a really full level of stories. And we did a couple of really crazy stories. I'm not even going to go over them because they were a little bit nuts. Need to be praying for parents and praying for people to make better decisions with their children. Several stories that were very disturbing about teachers. Again, we've continued that theme where teachers are crossing the line, sending pictures to children and so forth. More and more abuse stories of fake pastors being exposed. So in this time of light, my encouragement to all of you is to be people of the light, to walk in your light, and to do it because it's today, not because of some tomorrow that you think is coming, not because of the way you perceive tomorrow should go, but because today is the day that Yahuwah has made. And you should rejoice and be glad in today. What did Mashiach teach us? He said, give no thought for tomorrow. So all thoughts trying to figure it all out, get rid of that. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. That is the King's word. And I believe what we need to follow in this hour. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you. And I want to also say thank you to those of you that go on over to remnanthouse.org to support this work. Your support and your love, your prayers are deeply appreciated in this time. We are more than a little grateful. Amen. So thank you so much for being with us during this time. Well, thanks for joining us. May Eloah Hayam Baruch each and every one of you. Good night.